not forget the Dallas Gay and Lesbian Alliance, and that it builds a broad coalition across the district and throughout the city of business leaders, community leaders, and those in District 7 that I already have been working with and will continue to work with. Thank you.
Good evening, Randall Parker again. The endorsements that I received, for the most part, come from precinct chairs, and I also received endorsement from CWA and from the Texas State Employees Union as well. That's kind of good. I guess, you know, we all went after the same people and to get their endorsements. Some did better than others, apparently, you know, that shows. But again, like Reverend Lawson has stated earlier, it also allows you the opportunity to also be independent and not to be beholden to anyone else.
That's right. I agree.
That's the important thing. I mean, but again, like I stated, we all went after the same people. We all did. I did. We all did. So I'm not putting down hands back for getting those endorsements. They did a good job when they got it. But with that being said, you all or our boss or whomever is going to be up here support, representing you, you're the one that we need an endorsement from, which is more important. Thank you.
In addition to working really hard, being on the phones, many of you have not received robocalls from my campaign. You've actually received calls from me. The neighbors throughout District 7, the residents, as well as the corporate and business neighbors, the small business owners, are, of course, the endorsements that I valued the most and the ones that kept me motivated when we were having 2 and 3 interviews a day as a group, seeing each other almost during the entire daylight hours, interviewing for the PAC endorsements and the large endorsements that we received. I'm excited about the diversity of the endorsements I received. So the Dallas Firefighters Association, in addition to the Real Estate Council, receiving the co-endorsement of the Hispanic PAC, as well as receiving the endorsement from many of the other larger entities that I've gotten endorsements from. The reason why I'm excited is because despite the fact that my neighbors and the small business owners throughout the district support me and are excited about my ideas, their innovation, and their independence, with the diversity of the types of larger super PACs and PACs that I had endorse me, it means that they don't expect me to be beholden, but we have the excitement about my ideas. That means when it's time to sit at the table, everyone that can make the decision move forward will be there.
I think candidate Parker hit on something, and that is to the extent that the people, the organizations that endorse you, some of them get to control you, and I'm not one to be controlled. I have been endorsed by the Transit Workers Union. That's all of the dark bus drivers in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. I've also been endorsed by the Plumbers Union. I am a working person's candidate. People like you, I'm a homeowner and taxpayer, and so are you. If you want someone that is going to work in your behalf and not be controlled by business interests, that their only interest is the Trinity River Toll Road, then it wouldn't be me. It would be some of the other candidates that receive those endorsements. You need to know this because you as voters don't know what goes on behind the scenes. We as candidates, we do know. I'm not beholden to any of the special business interests. Let me say this, 95% of my campaign funds come from you. 75227, 75228. You are endorsing me, and that's the only endorsement that I care about. Thank you so much.
James J.T. Turkett. I'm endorsed by the people. The people asked me to run. I wasn't running for city council. I had plans. 2 years later, they begged me to run. They said, you gotta run, because if the wrong person get in there, we're gonna have 8 years of hell. You gotta run now. And I said, no, I thought about it, contemplated on it. I paid for most of my own not for myself, for the community, because I want to see everything better. And I'm glad to see those that I even told the PACs that I don't mind if you endorse me or not. I really don't mind. I'm here for the people.
The endorsements that I received are related to the work that I've done in the community and who I represent and what I am about. Honorable Harriet Earhart endorsed me. And her endorsement came as a result of the fact that I was one of the people that was instrumental in keeping Dallas Independent School District independent as opposed to a charter district. We wrote a state charter, we wrote a state resolution, a national resolution, presented it to the commissioners, and as a result of that and other community organization meetings that we had all over the city, the commissioners decided not to write the charter. So I was endorsed by Honorable Harriet Earhart. I was also endorsed by Reverend Peter Johnson. He's a civil rights leader, if you don't know, and he understands and realizes that I believe in justice, not justice for me, but justice for everybody. The other endorsement I received is from Unite Here. That is a local union, and what they do, they actually deal with the people that work in the hotels, the motels, and the people that work at other jobs that we consider not necessarily middle class. The president is William Gonzalez. But let me tell you one quick thing in a minute that I have. Money does not vote. Endorsements don't vote. People vote. Thank you very much.
Just want to make sure, all right.
So I'm going to go to the last question that's on the script. I have a follow-up question from the audience. So I want to go to the scheduled question, then I'll get that follow-up question here in just a second. So finally, and I know we've spoken about this already, I appreciate you guys all being here, and I'm not going to try to drag it out until 9 o'clock, even though we're ahead of time. Thank you, candidates, for being respectful to my subtle walk behind you and tell you that it's time to get off the microphone. I haven't had to snatch it out of anyone's hands. I was thinking about that last night. I was like, Lord, give me the strength, please. not to embarrass myself while trying to be a good facilitator. But in any event, number 5, which I've gone out of order, but this is the 8th question. All right. So the Buckner Terrace neighborhood is about 50 years old. Our infrastructure is aging, and we need help getting our sidewalks, streets, and alleys repaired. We already know the repairs need to happen, so no analysis is needed. If selected as our council member, what steps would you take to ensure that Buckner Terrace would receive upgrades to our infrastructure as needed? Again, I'll repeat as I walk over. The Buckner Terrace neighborhood is about 50 years old. Our infrastructure is aging, and we need help getting our sidewalks, streets, alleys repaired. We already know that the repairs need to happen, so no analysis is needed. If selected as our council member, what steps would you take to ensure that Buckner Terrace would receive upgrades to our infrastructure?
That's a great question. So one of my big things from my campaign is restoring the voice of the people. And Buckner Terrace has a very strong voice that I do not feel is going completely heard. As you all mentioned, these issues are already there. You all know that these are the issues. I know that these are the issues. So you need somebody who is willing to fight for you and advocate those issues. So
Just a couple of weeks ago, I attended the council briefing on streets, alleys, and sidewalks. And one of the things that was discussed is whether or not the current council plans to make this a priority area in dealing with the next budget cycle. And so I will be an advocate to make sure that that is an issue that we are advocating for. In addition to that, to making sure that Buckner Terrace is included in the conversations as we look at the next bond package. That will be a way that we can deal with the issues. And then also to make sure that we are getting concrete, not asphalt, as we fix these potholes in the streets. Thank you.
I'm not last, but we already had 2 great answers already. Again, making sure that the budget has street repairs in that budget for this area. That's one of the main things that I talked about earlier, was fixing our infrastructure, our streets, our sidewalks, and our alleyways. It's not just a problem with Buckner Terrace, it's a problem throughout the district. So those, and again, using the right material to make sure that those repairs are long-term. So we want to come back every other year or every other cycle and do the same thing all over again, just because of a rainstorm or a snowstorm comes. Let's do it right the first time, so we won't have to do it again for another 5 or 10 years or whatever, however long it would take. That's what I would do. Thank you.
I'm excited about this question as well, because particularly here in Buckner Terrace, as the question stated, you all know what your priorities are and you've clarified them. In addition to that, not only have you clarified them among yourselves, you've also been vocal advocates for yourselves. The thing that has stopped things from moving forward is the fact that oftentimes we get in, at City Hall, what we've seen is that people get territorial and they forget about the nuances of policy. So one of the things that's very important and that I'm excited about is not only the groups that have endorsed me, but the people inside of city business that meeting me upon 1 or 2 visits know that my mind and my training have trained me and make me skilled in policy. So whereas many people have asked and worried about, well, how do you get your 8 votes? I know that one of the things, despite bond packages and despite budget processes, that can often happen is that as we go through the year and make policy, the policies don't contain the priorities that we put in the bond package. So what we need is someone who has the training, as I have, and have the know-how, as Betty Culberth from the Planning Commission and commissioners and former sort of council members have said that I have, that can make sure that those priorities end up in every single piece of policy. Even if I lose, every ordinance and every policy that's put forth should not only be in line with the bond packaging and the budget, but should be in line with your priorities.
So when it comes down to getting your streets repaired, they do a survey and they grade your street. So if you're not a grade, let's say C to F, if your street is grade B or C, the grades D, E, and F come up to the top of the priority. I know that from attending budget meetings for the last 20 years. And so that is going to be the process. It's going to be the streets that are graded the lowest, not the ones that are graded up on the upper end of the scale. Also, if there's something that the entire street needs to be resurfaced, that may have to go into a bond package. So if it does have to go into a bond package, then the homeowners association needs to get together and decide which street deserves the priority. Is it Honeycutt? Is it Ashbrook? So on and so forth. So you need to put together a comprehensive plan of the streets that you want to be repaired, and so that every street that you want is done in a priority and a fashion. And everybody needs to participate. There needs to be more people that come to those meetings, because the more people that you have at those meetings, the better the likelihood that those streets will get repaired in that budget process. Thank you.
James A.T. Turner, that was a great question. And what I would do immediately is I would focus on that, but we would design a person to be a point man or a point woman, because that person has to make sure that the job gets done and communicates with the City Hall. And I think one problem we have is lack of communication or effective communication, and things are not getting done. I think that our city has not been effectively communicating with the people. We've got to do a better job. We can make sure that gets done. And child safety. There are streets in the area where children are walking, and there are no sidewalks. We've got a lot of safety problems. We need to work on these streets in Buckner Terrace area. It will be a great #1 priority to put money towards this area, and we'll be able to get the city council to buy into this idea. I'm a fighter. I've been fighting and winning things for 25 years, and I will fight to make that happen.
Just a few things here. First of all, you have to identify the need. You say you've already done that, and you've got the data to document that. So you assess the cost, you advocate for the repairs, and in advocating for the repairs, you've got to also make sure that you've got 7 votes plus my vote. Thank you.
You know, sometimes we have to be careful when we come to a meeting such as this that we don't degenerate into panderers. When you have a child that's unruly, and you have a good child in the family, you have the tendency to give the unruly child most of the attention. And the good child, you have a tendency to neglect. But we gotta remember, the good child needs a certain amount of attention because he sets the example for the unruly child. So Buckner Terrace is the good child in this district. And we need to pay proper attention to Buckner Terrace so it can continue to set an example for the rest of the district.
Thank you. So this one comes from the audience. Where'd the question go? And I agree with those sentiments. Having served as an administrator, we spend a lot of time talking about the kids who are in trouble, and we don't do enough to recognize the kids that are meeting or exceeding our expectations daily, and realize the value that that has in helping create a great culture at a school or any environment. So I agree. This question, thank you for the audience. I love being in this position because I can always say this is from the audience. I probably wouldn't ask it, it's a bit forward, but it's public information that's already available. So I like the fact that this question will also reveal who is really in touch with their campaign, knows what's going on in their own campaign as an indicator to us if they will know what's going on in their own district once they get to the city council. So a homeowner would like to know, who are your top donors? Again, this question says 3.